An underworld figure known as the Angel of Death has been shot dead at Parramatta, our city's first gangland execution in nearly 6 months.
3:45 a.m., Granville, Sydney. August 26, 2024. Firefighters arrived to find a black Audi SQ5 engulfed in flames on a deserted side street. Reported stolen 3 days earlier. Plates removed, VIN ground out. Every surface deliberately scorched. By the time forensics arrived, there's nothing left to recover. No prints, no DNA, no serial numbers, just accelerant residue and the kind of precision that doesn't happen by accident. At 4:12 a.m., a detective receives a call. A shooting in Parramatta 30 minutes earlier. Underground car park, 1 person down. Multiple witnesses reporting what sounded like sustained automatic gunfire. Then the connection forms. 5 kilometers between crime scenes. 28 minutes between incidents. The car wasn't just stolen, it was the getaway vehicle for one of Sydney's most calculated executions. And whoever torched it had already thought 10 steps ahead. But here's what made investigators pause. The victim wasn't just anyone, it was Tarek Ayoub, 29 years old, known across Sydney's underworld as the Angel of Death. A man who'd spent years making others disappear, now erased with the same clinical precision he once used on his enemies. What kind of execution requires that level of planning? And who had the resources to pull it off without leaving a single trace? Missed the button? Subscribe now so you don't forget later. Rewind 30 minutes. 3:17 a.m. Herald Street, Parramatta, underground car park beneath a residential complex. Tarek Ayoub exits his vehicle. A woman, later identified as an acquaintance, cleared of all involvement, remains inside. Surveillance cameras capture the car entering. They do not capture what happens next. The angles are wrong, the lighting insufficient, almost as if someone had already studied the blind spots. But neighbors 5 floors up describe the sound. Fast, rhythmic, mechanical, not panic fire, execution. By the time officers arrive at 3:24 a.m., Ayoub is unresponsive beside his car, keys still in hand, engine running, driver's door open. Forensics count 29 shell casings scattered across concrete. Some reports claim 30 rounds fired. Ballistic analysis later confirms. High-caliber automatics, coordinated fire pattern, suggesting at least 2 shooters working in tandem. The woman tells investigators she saw flashes, red, white, gone. No faces, no voices, no commands shouted, just movement in the dark, and then silence. By 3:30 a.m., paramedics declare Ayoub deceased at the scene. By 3:45 a.m., the Audi in Granville is already burning. Detective Superintendent Danny Doherty describes it publicly as a targeted execution. Within hours, Force Juno is formed, pulling in homicide, forensics, and organized crime units under one command. But they're not just investigating a murder. They're reverse engineering a plan that left no mistakes, no witnesses who saw faces, no forensic evidence linking anyone to the scene. No digital trail connecting the stolen car to a suspect, just a body, a burned site, and 24 unanswered questions. And the biggest one? How did someone that careful end up in an underground car park at 3 a.m.? Tarek Ayoub wasn't supposed to be there. For months leading up to his death, intelligence units had flagged him as at imminent risk of homicide. NSW police records show. 2 prior attempts on his life, both intercepted before completion. Known associations with rival crews across Bankstown, Auburn, and Guildford. Active involvement in supply chains, investigators believed stretched into Bicky networks and beyond. After the second attempt, Ayoub went underground. Phones deactivated, social media accounts deleted, no fixed address listed on any official records. Associates later told police he never slept in the same location twice, changed vehicles daily, drove with windows cracked just enough to hear approaching engines, adjusted mirrors so nothing stayed unseen. One contact described him as a man already dead, just waiting for the date to be confirmed. His paranoia wasn't irrational, it was survival. And yet, on the night of August 26th, he was in a location he couldn't easily escape, with someone whose identity police still won't fully disclose. In a car park with limited exits and cameras that didn't cover the kill zone. Was it a meeting that went wrong, a setup from someone he trusted? Or had months of running made him predictable? Force Juno is still investigating. But the woman in the car, cleared of involvement after extensive questioning, has provided no motive, no suspects, no explanation for why they were there at that hour. Which means either she doesn't know, or she's chosen not to say. And in Sydney's underworld, silence like that usually means one thing: fear of what comes next. You're still here? Do what you meant to do earlier. Subscribe. Tarek Ayoub's name first entered police databases in 2017. Easter Sunday. 16-year-old Braden Dillon, shot dead in his bed in what investigators later confirmed was a revenge killing tied to an earlier homicide. Ayoub wasn't the shooter, but court records show he pleaded guilty to concealing information that could have identified those responsible. The charge itself was minor, concealing a serious indictable offense. But the implication wasn't. It marked him as someone embedded in networks that operated on loyalty and silence. From that point forward, his profile grew, not through public violence, but through quiet influence. Witnesses in unrelated cases would suddenly forget details. Statements would shift overnight. Charges against associates would collapse without explanation. Detectives began noticing a pattern. Wherever Ayoub's name appeared in the background of an investigation, evidence had a habit of disappearing. He never raised his voice, never made overt threats, never needed to. His presence alone was enough to stop people from talking. By his mid-20s, NSW police intelligence files described him as a known criminal identity with multiple enemies, significant influence within organized drug supply networks, and associations extending into Bicky-controlled territories. But in Yagub, the quiet, working-class suburb where he grew up, neighbors described someone entirely different: polite, respectful, helped his elderly mother with groceries, drove her to medical appointments and Friday prayers. The duality wasn't an act. It was control. He understood that reputation is built in two places: in the streets, where fear keeps you safe, and at home, where normalcy keeps you invisible. For years, he balanced both. Until August 26, 2024, when the balance shattered in 30 seconds of sustained gunfire. Force Juno executed its largest evidence sweep within 48 hours of the shooting. CCTV footage pulled from 17 locations between Parramatta and Granville. Dashcam appeals issued across Sydney, targeting drivers who may have passed through Herald Street or the Granville burn site between 3 and 4 a.m. Door-to-door canvassing covering 4 suburbs: Parramatta, Auburn, Granville, and Guildford. Thousands of frames reviewed, dozens of interviews conducted, hundreds of hours of surveillance analyzed. Not a single clear face captured. Not a single witness who could identify the shooters. The burnt Audi, pulled apart at a secure forensics facility, yielded nothing. No prints, no biologics, no recoverable vehicle data. One forensic examiner described it as methodically erased, not just burned, but systematically destroyed to prevent any trace recovery. Ballistic reports confirmed the use of multiple high-caliber automatic weapons. The spread pattern and timing suggested at least 2 shooters, possibly 3, working with military-level coordination. But it was the timeline that told the real story. 3:17 a.m. Shooting begins. 3:19 a.m. Shooting ends. 3:21 a.m. Estimated time shooters leave scene. 3:28 a.m. Estimated arrival at Granville. 3:45 a.m. Car fully engulfed in flames. 17 minutes to drive 5 kilometers, torch a vehicle, and disappear into a city of 5 million people. That's not panic. That's rehearsal. Inside the Force Juno command center, a whiteboard began to fill with names. Rivals who'd clashed with Ayoub over territory, associates who owed him money, crews who blamed him for raids, arrests, or missing product, Bickies who saw him as a threat to controlled supply chains. Everyone had a reason. No one left evidence. Detectives believe the answer lies not in who wanted him dead, but in who had the capability to make it untraceable. That narrows the suspect pool significantly, but it doesn't solve the case. As of now, Force Juno remains operationally active. No arrests made, no suspects publicly named, no charges filed. The investigation is ongoing. The city is watching, and whoever orchestrated this is still out there. When news of Tarek Ayoub's death spread across Sydney's underworld, the reaction wasn't shock. It was silence. Not the stunned kind that follows tragedy. The calculated kind that follows a demonstration of power. Within 72 hours, Phones across multiple organized crime networks went dark. Outstanding debts were suddenly settled without negotiation. Known associates of Ayoub either left Sydney or stopped appearing in public. Police monitoring communications networks noted an absence of chatter, no boasting, no claims of responsibility, no retaliation threats. In a world where reputation is currency and violence is often loud, someone had just made a statement and chosen not to sign it. That kind of silence carries its own message. We can reach anyone, anytime, anywhere. Detectives increased patrols across Parramatta, Auburn, and Guildford, not because retaliation was expected, but because the power structure had shifted, and no one knew who was holding it now. One local business owner, speaking anonymously to investigators, said, "People are different now. Careful. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's next." It's the same fear Tarek Ayoub once wielded to control others. Now it's pointed back at the streets he used to move through freely. Weeks after the shooting, life returned to Herald Street. Bullet damage repaired, concrete pressure washed, new paint applied to cover the scorch marks. But residents say the feeling hasn't left. "You can still feel it at night," one neighbor told police during follow-up interviews. "Like something's still waiting down there, like it's not finished." And maybe it's not. Because in Sydney's underworld, executions like this don't happen in isolation. They're moves in a larger game, a recalibration of territory, a consolidation of control, a warning to anyone watching. And the people left standing aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones who knew when to step back, when to stop talking, when to disappear. As of now, Tarek Ayoub's murder remains unsolved. Strike Force Juno continues to pursue active lines of inquiry. Forensic analysis is ongoing. Witness appeals remain open. Investigative resources have been allocated indefinitely. But the people who planned this, whoever they are, understood something most criminals miss. In modern investigations, invisibility isn't enough. You need to be untraceable. They didn't just kill him. They engineered a murder so clean that even the evidence leads nowhere. Stolen car, burned beyond forensic recovery. Shooters, never captured on surveillance. Motive, too broad to narrow into actionable intelligence. Witnesses, either non-existent or too terrified to speak. It's the kind of case that gets filed under ongoing investigation and quietly goes cold. And that raises a darker question. Who else is on their list? Because executions this precise don't happen in a vacuum. They're statements, warnings, demonstrations of capability. Tarek Ayoub spent years building fear through silence and control. He understood power better than most. He wielded it carefully. Until someone with more power, more resources, and better planning decided his time was up. The angel of death, taken by a method he might have respected. Fast, clean, untraceable. But here's what investigators know for certain. Whoever did this didn't act alone. They had coordination, funding, discipline. They scouted locations, timed movements, planned contingencies. And they're still out there. So the real question isn't just who killed Tarek Ayoub, it's who's next. And will Strike Force Juno find them before the next name gets crossed off the list? If this story gripped you, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're telling the stories most fear to touch. Thank you for watching.